Hey, this is Lori, and I'm gonna try another writing experiment. This is a story that I started on, I haven't finished, and I just want to read the beginning and see if anyone likes it, and I'll see where it goes from here. Alright. All stories have a way that they want to be told. There are stories that are pragmatic thugs who insist on being told from beginning to end, with details only being allowed in if they have the proper credentials and two forms of identification. Then there are the shallow-brained stories who want everyone to know everything about them and wish they could be told in circles to never-ending audiences. Whatever the personality of the story, it's usually only told if it can find a teller with a personality to match. Stories stuck with tellers with incompatible personalities either never get told at all, or end up in the dime novels at the bottom of the stack in the back room of the last little bookshop in a bad part of town. But my story and I are very different. My story wants all the facts and feelings and colors to be poured into your head all at once, while the beginning, middle, and end are all bounced around you, like that one guy who doesn't drink trying to wade through an after-prom party. I'm a little more practical, and I'd like to see my readers to make it to the end without being admitted for psychiatric care. Fortunately, my story and I agree on one thing. It is too important to not be told, or to suffer the alternative, so we have reached a compromise, a contract of sorts. I get my bits of order in strategic places, while the story is given free rein the rest of the time. This introduction is my first allotment, and I will use it to say, pay special attention to the scrawny girl running barefoot on the rocks, and to the very old man with a very sneaky suspicion that he might just be looking at a swimmer. The 17 years are rarely thought about the way they should be. They are thought about by philosophers, who are useless, and teachers who think useful things but to whom no one ever listens. And they are thought about by swimmers, who are forced to decide, but by then it's too late. Young swimmers think about the 17 years the way cheerleaders think about death. It's there, but certainly not as important as who Bobby told Tish that Steven said he might want to ask out. And the river thought about them, but no one has quite figured out how rivers think. All the children had to attend picking day. It was the rule, though no one really knew why it was the rule, possibly so that the children who were picked had someone to be picked out of. But everyone knew who was going to be picked. Only important children got picked, and everyone always knows who is important and who isn't. It was Master Garen's job to get all the children to picking day. It was Master Garen's job to get all the children anywhere they needed to be. Master Garen liked picking day, or more accurately, he liked when picking day was over, because then he would be responsible for less children and only the unimportant ones, and no one cared about what the unimportant children did after picking day. Master Garen's job got a lot easier after picking day. After all the adults, except Master Garen, had assembled at the river, the children came down from the hills. There were 15 children this year. The pack was led by a loud, boisterous brute of a child who knew he was important, followed by 6 nearly identical Weasley-looking children and a rather small girl with flowers in her hair. A few paces back, there were 2 skinny, blonde-haired boys, a sad-eyed girl, a scrawny girl who ran barefoot on the rocks, and a boy who was forever getting lost because he always had his nose in a book. Master Garen guided him with one hand while towing the 2 remaining children with the other. They were a girl and a boy, and they were half asleep. They were always half asleep. Once the children reached the river, Master Garen separated them. The important ones hugged their parents, who stood proudly at the front of the assembly. The 2 blonde boys, the sad-eyed girl, the scrawny girl, and a book boy stood in a group at the edge of the assembly. Master Garen handed the sleeping boy off to the scrawny girl and took the sleeping girl up to the front. She woke up just long enough to hug her important father and stand beside the other important children. The parents of the unimportant ones, or at least the parents of the one who had parents, stayed at the back and tried to look as they were supposed to be, proudly standing at the front. A flourish of trumpets signaled the start of the ceremony, and everyone stood to attention. The picker came out of the crowd and slowly made his way up to the picking rock at the edge of the river. He was very slow, because he was a very old man, and he was slower than usual, because he was busy trying to keep a very sneaky suspicion from worming its way into his head. I am allowed by contract to interject here that what follows takes place in a very different world, and should no way be confused with the events recently related. Adam was 72 when his first great-grandchild was born. As soon as she was old enough to leave the hospital, she was placed on her Poppy Adam's knee, just as her mother and grandmother had been before her. Adam watched her angel face react to whatever baby thoughts were dancing around in her head. He watched for a few minutes before looking up to take in the crowd milling around the room in front of him. Most of them he didn't know. They were family and friends, he supposed, of the other nursing home residents. The other residents he knew, so didn't pay much attention to. She wouldn't be a nursing home resident, she was too slippery for that. His granddaughter was chatting about something in his ear, but Adam kept looking. He scanned every female face, trying to pick out those shining eyes. Finally his eyes rested on a small girl standing in the corner of the room. She didn't look anything like the woman he remembered. She looked dirty and wet and scared and confused, but she also looked out of place, and out of place was almost as good a clue as shiny eyes. He quickly tucked the infant tight to his chest and began a one-armed, one-footed manipulation of his wheelchair that was faster than his granddaughter ever expected he could move. She stood in shock as he made his way with her child to talk to a girl who looked like she had just come into the nursing home to get out of the weather. By the time the girl realized Adam was coming towards her, he was there, holding out the baby for her to see. "There, didn't I tell you?" he laughed. "Beautiful." Said the girl. "So you didn't tell me, you sneak. You made me wonder all this time." "Time?" said the girl. "Well, don't worry," Adam laughed again. "Don't worry. It's a good joke. I suppose it's a very good joke." "Baby," said the girl. I must say here that nursing homes can seem like very strange places, especially if you've never seen things with walls that went up over your head and didn't let the sun in, and if you had to run in to one just to keep the river water from falling on you, as it seemed to want to keep doing, and you would be very confused too. So the fact that all the girl said was time, and baby shouldn't be held against her for very long. The old man had been watching the scrawny girl for a long time. Most unimportant kids never went to the river. They never seemed to notice it exist. But the girl watched the river. She saw what was happening. And that's all I have so far. I have a pretty good idea where it's going to go from there, but I just want to see what people think about it. Thanks. Bye.